Hello everyone, and today we are discussing about a very important thing that are you suffering? Do we think that we are suffering in this material world, or do we know about what the real problems of our life is? And let's see and discuss what the scripture suggests on this. So today we will be actually analyzing about what are the real problems of life and what are temporary problems of life. Let's understand more about what real problem of our life is. Do we think that poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, corruption, and these all things, many more things, do we think that these are our real problems of life is? But actually, the list goes on, but we do not know what the real problem of our life is. Let's try to analyze it from scripture's point of view. So it's being said, the fact is, one man's food is another man's poison, or basically, one man's problem is another man's solution. It is an analogy to understand that if someone is in problem, it means that someone else is actually getting benefited. We can take many examples. Let's suppose we get disease, right? So when we have some diseases, we actually reach out to doctor to cure it, and we may be feeling that we are suffering from the disease, but doctor is actually getting paid. The bread and butter for the doctor is the patients. So as more and more patients comes up, the more and people get diseased, the doctors are getting benefited. And maybe we can take another example like accidents or any failures in our car or mechanical things. So when the mechanical things break down, the mechanics, they are earning money, they are having their bread and butter for this. So that is the analogy how it says one man's food is another man's poison, or maybe someone's problem is in someone's solutions. So the real problems of life is, there are three things to understand what the real problems of life is. The first is that the problem should be common to all, right? Problem should be common to everyone, each and everyone. It doesn't matter who they are. And that problem, no one wants it. No one wants to have that problem. So first point is, it's common to all. Second is, no one wants it. And the third says, no one can avoid it. So these are the three parameters how we can understand what the real problems is. First is, it's common to all. Second is, no one wants it. And third is, no one can avoid it. Irrespective of color, white, black, whatever it is, gender, male, female, doesn't matter, status, either you're poor or rich, or you're under poverty line, or wherever you are, it's actually irrespective of everyone. It's common to all, no one wants it, and no one can avoid it. And the same as place, you might think, okay, I'm in US or UK, I'm in a very well like an established country, I'm happy. But that's not the case. These three problems, these three statements of the real problems will actually come and act on you as well. That's why Srimad Bhagavad Gita says in 13th chapter, that is a very nice sloka, that it says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosanu Darsanam. What that has means, it means that Janma, the first problem, the birth, the Mrityu, the second problem, this is called as death, and then Vyadi and old age, and Jara is a disease. So these four things are actually a real problem of the living entity. This sloka indicates that the real problems of our life are the problems which are actually common to all. It means everyone is bound to take birth, bound to have death, old age, and disease. So, and no one wants it. Even people who sometimes we say we want to go to heaven, however, no one wants to die. So that is how it's common to all. Second, it's no one wants it. And the third is, no one can avoid this problem. So this is the truth of life, whether you accept it or not. You may be like an ostrich, closing your eyes and saying it doesn't matter or doesn't exist for me, but it's a fact. And we can see people around around our nearby, that people are actually having these problems and they're suffering a lot from this. Let's deep dive onto these four problems, and then we'll understand some more things on that as well. So first is says birth. We might say, how you can say the birth is a problem, but actually being inside the womb for 8, 9 or 10 months of a mother is actually very, very, very painful. You have been surrounded within a very, very limited space, uh, within the stool. Being said, none of us wants to suffer the pain of birth. Birth is actually an extremely painful experience for the living entity, even for the mother, even for the child as well. Now, for 9 long months, we lie cramped within the darkness of the womb, suffering severely, scorched by mother's gastric fire, continuously jolted by sudden movements, and feeling constant pressure from being contained in a small sac which surrounds us in the womb. So this problem is actually a real problem. So furthermore, when the hungry worms in the cavity, they torment the fetus, and that's why that fetus is still living in the stool, urine, and in the same packet. So just imagine it, how misery it is. Even Srimad Bhagavatam explains that a child could see Krishna, and he prays to him, please save me this time. From next time, I won't want to take birth anymore. But as soon as the person come out to this material world, because of the severe pain we have, we forget everything. We forget Krishna, and then gradually we are entangled with these material modes, and we are enjoying or suffering in a different way, and literally forgetting everything about the real problem of our things. That is janma, that's birth. And let's see the next one. It is called as death. I don't think I'll have to explain much about death. However, we haven't not faced death in this life yet, but actually we have faced death in many, many previous lives. And that's a fact of our life. And Krishna says, the one who is take birth, he is bound to die as well. No one can avoid this. It's common to all, and no one wants it, interestingly. So even it doesn't matter how much money we have earned, how much happiness we have accumulated in this life, or how many nice personality or relatives we do have, but the death is gonna come. And that death is not only painful for the person, it's painful for all the surrounded people as well. So the soul which resides inside it actually goes out from this body, and there is much pain. In Garuda Purana, it's been explained that, it's one of the ancient Vedic scriptures that's called Garuda Purana. It is explained that death is extremely painful, and the person dying experiences a pain that equivalent to the 40,000 scorpion biting at the same time. Imagine it. Even the Bhagavatam explained the same thing. There are so many scorpion bites at the same time. However, that we do not know, or we just ignore these things. But the death is inevitable for all living being, and everyone has to face it one day. Though it is a fearful and painful at the same time. We when we talk about death, we actually get fear as well. However, when we go deep dive to chapter number 8 of Bhagavad Gita, there Krishna explains how at the time of death what should be the action of a life, or what should be the mood of someone's while he was dying. Krishna says, just by remembering him we can go back to Golok Vrindavan. But remembering him at the time of death, when 60 or 40,000 of scorpion biting at the same time, it's not very easy possible. So that's why if you practice it every day to remember Krishna, somehow or other we can come to at the time of death, we can remember him as well. And the third section is old age. Again, old age is very painful, mind it, and you must have experienced from your nearby things actually. So what happens in the old days, our the mind, the body, they all got old. We cannot think much, we cannot run fast, we cannot do any activities, and there are many things which are actually we cannot avoid. Even sometimes we have seen in our surrounding, in our relatives, and they are, they had to pass their stools and urine just lying on the bed as well. You can't go away from that. So imagine how painful that it is. And it being said, the time, the kala, it does not spare anybody. We were all children some years ago. We grew to become youth, and eventually we'll have to face the old age. We see some sweet memories because you know that we are actually forced to grow old helplessly. No one can stop the growth. They has to, it goes naturally by the laws of nature. But at the end, when we become old, with have with crumbly face and the dried screen, who doesn't look that smart or that young enough. But it is the fact. So these are the third problem we discussed about the real problem of life: the birth, the death, and the old age. And the fourth one is the disease. Even we try to avoid, we cannot avoid disease as well. So disease is one of the things which actually it's inevitable. Even in our, we can see the problems what we have. A small, currently a small coronavirus had came up in this world. No one knows from where it came, but actually it has been uh, attacked the whole world in a severe way, from financially, from every perspective. The whole thing has been scrambled just because of a small thing. And we all are scared. We all are living at our home, no one is going out. The nature is so wonderful, we want to enjoy it, but we cannot go out because fearing of the disease. You might have, and once we have the disease, we might get faced death as well. So that is the thing that we need to understand, that these are the real problems of our life: birth, old age, disease, and death, right? And on top of this, there are three other problems which we normally face, or the miseries. This is called as threefold miseries. And the first one is called as adhyatmika. That misery being caused by our mind and body. So it's the problems which you get by our mind. Maybe we are stressed and we are not feeling well, or our body is sometimes is not well to work, kind of this. And then the next is called as adibhautika. Adibhautika means this is inflated by the other living beings. Maybe or sometimes we get some problems with the family members, sometimes with our friends, and so on. And the third one is called as adi daivika. And the third one is called as adi daivika. Adi daivika means it has been caused by our natural disasters, calamity. Maybe sometimes so much rain, so much cold, or sometimes storms and earthquake, tsunami, and these all the things. So in our nutshell, these are the four things that are real problems to our life, and the three miseries which we actually face every now and then, from adi daivik, adhyatmic, and adi bhautik. But as said, every problem has a solution. So this problem has a solution as well. What is this? So it being said, for those who have accepted the vote of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is the famous as Murari, the enemy of demon Mura. The ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof's print. Imagine it. Their goal is param padam vaikuntha. Just by that we can go to the vaikuntha dham, the place where there is no misery, no material miseries, and there is no danger at every steps. But in this material world we have danger at every steps. It means says, so for the verse goes from 10th canto like this: Shamashita ye padapallavaplavam Mahat padam punya yeshu murare Bhavan buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yad vipadam natesham. This is being glorified by Lord Brahma in 10th canto, saying that how at each step we have a real problem in this our material world, but taking shelter to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, just by accepting him. And the Kali Yoga is very simple way to surrender him is by chanting the holy name Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just by surrendering to the lotus feet, by chanting the holy name, we can cross away this material ocean, right? So, and this Irving says that material oceans is actually becomes like just hoof print of a calf, and we can actually jump over it. But when we take shelter on the foot of Lord Krishna, right? And Srila Prabhupada, he actually gives a solution. He says, we are trying to give people that happiness. I repeat, we are trying to give people that happiness which will never be exhausted. Even if sometimes we might think we are actually enjoying, what the problem? We have a good job, we have a good uh, house to live, we have a wonderful car, and we are enjoying every day. But that happiness or this happiness can be exhausted after some time, maybe when we are die or anything happens. But the happiness Prabhupada is talking about is actually a spiritual happiness, and that happiness is never going to be exhausted, right? And then it says that is our objective of happiness, that happiness which is actually never going to be exhausted. And that happiness is basically getting spiritual happiness. Prabhupada says one should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. You should try to understand how much painful these four things are. What? Birth, death, old age, and disease. These are the descriptions. There are descriptions in the various Vedic literature of birth. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful because we forget how much disease we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solutions to the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. This should be discussed, and as far as the disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets a practical experience, isn't it? No one wants to be diseased, no one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding of these things. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distress of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life. So, to advance in spiritual life, we need to understand that actually we need to cut down the root of birth and death. It's being said, 84 millions of species we have been going around. Sometimes we are as animals, sometimes as trees, sometimes as plant, and now we have got the body of human being. So the real purpose of human being is actually to cut down this journey of birth and death and break it down and go back to spiritual world. I hope we would be able to understand what the real problem of our life is. The problems which we say as a poverty, illiteracy, and all these things, these are actually relative to person. A person might be very educated, and the other hand, the one person might be very poor or illiterate. So those two are on actually relative level. But the real problem is was, I'll repeat, no one wants it, no one avoids it, and it's common to all. Hare Krishna. Thank you. I hope it makes sense to you all. Thank you very much.